was actually November 11th of 2020, Veterans Day. My husband was on his way to come get me. I thought, why is he not here? I kept looking out the window, waiting for him to pull up at any time. Of course, that never happened. I had got an alert stating that there had been a fatal one-passenger car accident involving a semi on 70. And at that point, that's when I got a call from my daughter, and I knew that it was him. The night after the crash, I spoke to David to get the investigation going. He came over. It was a good meeting, and I felt assured that this is what I needed to do.
So I spent several hours with Nika and her family the night after her husband had died. And that very next morning, I was in the office, and we were putting a team together to protect her and her family. James's case was an extraordinarily tough case. He was driving west on I-70 on his way to meet his wife. And he was in the left lane, and unbeknownst to him, there was a truck stopped in the same left lane, the passing lane. Now, the reason the semi was stopped on I-70 was because it had dropped a couple of pipes off of the trailer, and somebody had seen the pipes falling off. The semi driver didn't know it and stopped him right in the highway. Now, we hired an accident reconstructionist, and accident reconstructionist went out and scanned the scene, and they came to the conclusion that the speed that Mr. Alcorn was going would have been very difficult for him to stop or switch lanes. Unfortunately, the semi driver sat there and didn't move his semi before Mr. Alcorn struck the back of it. Well, because we were hired the day after the wreck, we were able to send preservation letters out to say, please do not adjust or unload that trailer. For a shipper to be responsible, you have to be able to prove that they did something wrong when they loaded it, and what they did wrong was hidden, that the driver couldn't have seen it. So when we found the trailer, it was sitting in a junkyard, and on it was still all the pipes except for the couple that had fallen off before the wreck. And then we watched them unload that trailer. And unbeknownst to the driver of the semi, this shipper, when they had loaded this pipe, they had used boards on the bottom to brace the pipes. And those boards were not fastened down. Now, the semi driver, he saw them nail down a couple of the boards, and so he assumed all of them were, and then he went into the office. But unbeknownst to him, they didn't nail down all the boards. They just kind of haphazardly nailed down some, didn't nail down others, screwed down some, didn't screw down others. When the truck was on the highway, those little boards moved. And when those boards moved, the load shifted. When the load shifted, the strapping on the load became loose, and that's what caused the pipes to fall. And that was a latent or hidden defect, because once the pipes were put onto the trailer, you couldn't tell that those boards were not fastened down. Again, if the trailer had been unloaded, it would have destroyed. There would have been no evidence as to why the pipes fell off that trailer. We would have had no case against the shipper, and the only case we would have had was against the trucking company with their minimum insurance. And that would have been inadequate compensation for this family. Because she had hired a firm like ours that knows how to do trucking, we were able to make that discovery and go after the shipper in this particular case.
Don't pick an attorney that is just out for themselves. They need to pick someone like David Craig in his office who is knowledgeable of the law, has expertise, and has compassion for people. You know, there were days that I didn't know if mentally I was going to make it, but they helped me walk through the hardest time of my life, and I'm just very grateful for that.